2 laps. The party already starting here in Brazil. Just break off ever so shortly for these brilliant pre-race ceremonies here in Brazil, because it's a special day for Brazilian fans, a special day for Australian Jack Miller. He's just about to make his 200th MotoGP start. Let's get the thoughts of Jack with Jack.
Yeah, massive achievement, Jack. 200 Grand Prix start. Not many people able to reach a figure like that. How much of an honour is it to get that number, and how you think it's happening? Oh, it's got a little bit of a game.
Indeed, have a good one, Jack Miller, the 31-year-old Australian, in his 200th MotoGP start. Some accolade that. Longevity for a top talent and just a top all-round bloke, Unit Jack Miller. Only the 10th rider in history to reach that 200 appearance milestone. That was a successful one for the rider from Townsville down under.
Yeah, the customary cake was presented to Jack at the end of warm-up this morning. Of course, 200th Grand Prix for him. Just number 2 for Toprak, his teammate, who was quick to come over and lend over his congratulations as well. I think if Jack can emerge from that 200th Grand Prix with points, I think that would represent a success for him and Pratt.
Fantastic, yeah, the Brazilian fans enjoying this carnival atmosphere there down on the grid. And I'm sure you are watching at home as well. They say they do know how to bring the vibes. They know how to create a special atmosphere, don't they, here in Brazil. In this country, in the world. Sport mad nation. Football mad nation, a motorsport mad nation as well, of course. Under 15 minutes away from that lights out for the Grand Prix action. It's umbrellas for shade, not umbrellas for rain. So the fans gathered here today, almost 61,000 of them. Well, we need Jack now we're joining in this. So, we know that Jack can bust a few moves himself.
His kind of deal is, I think, isn't it, at the front of the grid?
He's kind of a tire as well.
I was going to say, I know you're all thinking at home, Jack Miller is going to wear that on after flag after the show. We'll have a word and see if we can put it together.
I've paid big money to see you two dressed up and getting in the local spirit of things.
Anything in my size, to be honest. Putting the timber on after a week in Brazil, eating beautiful steak. in the city of Goiânia throughout the week. Yeah, Brazil and Goiânia have really taken MotoGP to their hearts over the course of this week. They've brought the colour, they've brought the atmosphere. It's now time for us to bring the action.
Don't worry, mate, you can have a meat detox in Austin next week.
Oh, wait.
Oh, hang on a minute. No, maybe not. Brilliant. Absolutely wonderful to see a bit of the local culture in action here. Those fans are ready themselves for big moments. Big day soon to arrive. Marc Marquez add to his CV, first time wins on first time visits to Austin, Termas, Buriram and Balaton. If he does so, it will be the 23rd different track that Marc has won on in MotoGP, tying with Valentino Rossi, and pretty only one behind the record of Aussie legend Mick Doohan. That's what they're all doing battle for over 31 laps here in Goiânia. They've organised the prize, including our owls that are watching trackside. They're watching you as well, don't worry. Of course, there is the magnificent MotoGP Tower of Champions. For the first time since 2019 in Motegi last year, it was Marc Marquez that added his name once again to the top of that tower. Trying to keep himself at the top of the tower and get himself back on the top step of the podium here this afternoon will be Marc. Just to reiterate, it would see him reach 100 Grand Prix victories. Well, he's a star in this part of the world, isn't he? 2008 Formula 1 World Championship runner-up Felipe Massa, former Ferrari F1 driver, with Jack on the grid.
Felipe, an absolute pleasure to have you here on the grids ahead of the first Brazilian Grand Prix, for us anyway, in 22 years. How good is it, as a Brazilian, to see MotoGP return here?
It's amazing. I love it to be here. It's a great experience, you know, to see what they're doing in the track, you know, how the courage these riders have, you know, to drive and what they do in the track. But also for me, the pleasure, you know, to be here to watch them in the MotoGP. You guys so nice also to receive all of us, and it's great to see MotoGP in Brazil.
Of course, have one of your own on the grid in Diogo Moreira, only his second Grand Prix and in the top 10 yesterday. How impressed have you been, and how much is the Brazilian public behind him?
Oh, he's a future champion. I saw him before I went to meet him for the first time, and he's a very good mentor, you know, and I tell him, you know, concentrate and enjoy.
Felipe, great to have you here. Enjoy the race.
Thank you. Welcome to Brazil.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, thanks very much for a very warm welcome from the Brazilian public, and in particular the Goiânia public. It has been wonderful to be back here in Brazil. Looking forward to many more years of MotoGP racing here in this part of South America, as under red hot conditions the riders come, and very, very shortly we are going to show what's going to be a rousing rendition of the Brazilian national anthem in the company of Gustavo Lima. This will be a special moment for Diogo Moreira, who would have dreamt of this moment for so many years. Now is his moment, it's his time to shine in front of his home crowd. Felipe Massa saying himself that one day he's going to be a future MotoGP world champion. Well, who are we to argue with somebody like Felipe Massa? Great to have him with us here in Goiânia. So we are going to take a short pause here in the commentary box and let you enjoy at home the Brazilian national anthem.
As margens ácidas de povo heróico brado retumbante, e o sol da liberdade em raios fúlgidos brilhou no céu da pátria nesse instante. Se o penhor dessa igualdade conseguimos conquistar com braço forte, em teu seio, ó liberdade, desafia o nosso peito a própria morte. O Padre amado, idolatrado, salve, salve. Brasil, um sonho intenso, raio vívido, de amor e de esperança. balança, a terra desce. Se Deus formoso o céu risonho e límpido, a imagem do cruzeiro resplandece, gigante pela própria natureza. És belo, és forte, impávido, colosso, e o tempo puro espelha essa grandeza. Terra morada, entre outras mil, és do Brasil, ó pátria amada. Dos filhos deste sol és mãe, gentil, pátria amada, Brasil.
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant there from Gustavo Lima. A real rousing reception he's getting from the Brazilian fans. You reckon the Brazilian fans are passionate? You reckon they've missed their MotoGP racing since 2004? What an atmosphere. We can barely hear Jack and Pablo Nieto talking down the good, but they're going to have a go, guys.
Yeah, down here with Pablo Nieto, and they're just getting confirmed. It's 23-lap race. 23-lap race just confirmed right now to Pablo Nieto, who's telling Fabio Di Antonio, let me just see if I can grab a quick word. In fact, you know, he needs to run off, obviously, with that. That's a huge impactor on the race. Pablo Nieto running off to speak to Frankie Morbidelli. Come back to me, guys.
Yeah, there has been some talk here. We saw, didn't we, at the start of our MotoGP coverage on the grid about half an hour ago. Marc Marquez and Luca Marini were having a chat with rider safety delegate Loris Capirossi. And we suspected, given the fact that we are experiencing ambient temperatures of in excess of 30 degrees. There is confirmation on your screens. Brilliant work by Jack there to give you confirmation. The race then has been reduced by 8 laps. 8 laps is a significant reduction in the number of laps, 31 down to 23. That makes this MotoGP race actually shorter than both the early Moto2 and Moto3 laps.
You know, the 8 laps longer than the sprint was yesterday.
Yeah.
Does anyone change tyres as a result of that and go from the medium to the soft, I wonder?
Well, you fuel load. I mean, you'd have fueled the bike up for 31 laps. You'll have electronic strategies for 31 laps.
But as Jack rightly points out, the time has passed now to change your tyre choice, so they're all locked into the decision. So if anyone did take a gamble on the soft rear tyre for this Grand Prix, they might suddenly be looking in good shape here.
We saw, not giving names away, but the riders that finished in the Moto2 Park Ferme were exhausted. They were drained, weren't they, at the end of that Grand Prix? We can only suspect that it is the fact that track temperatures are higher already, as Jack mentioned, than Buriram last weekend, in excess of 60 degrees temperature. And also the fact that the ambient temperature is over 30 degrees. It's incredibly hot and humid here in Goiânia. But there you can see on your screen, this is the message from Race Direction. There has been a very significant reduction in our planned race distance here. We are dropping down from 31 to 23 laps. The 31 lap race distance, just a reminder, was going to make it the highest number of laps in the MotoGP race in 13 years. There were 32 laps over in California for the 2013 American Grand Prix at Laguna Seca, which on that occasion, of course, was won by the man on your screens right now, Marc Marquez.
We will go from third place on the grid. Pablo Nieto, who's been a rather busy man in the last few minutes, he is now back with Jack.
Pablo, that's obviously huge news. It's going to have a huge impact on how you attack this race. What have you told the guys, and how does that change tactics?
The problem now is we don't have enough time to change nothing, so we have to keep the same strategy and make the race like this.
In terms of Fabio, obviously crashed this morning in warm-up. How did that affect his confidence?
Always happen, no? But the good thing is when you are at pole position, your confidence are very, very good. So we have to try to make a very good race. Very good start is the most important thing, and then we will see.
Thanks, good luck.
Thank you.
Well, as you can see, this is an evolving situation here in Brazil. We're getting information pretty much just as you are watching at home. The reason for the race distance reduction is due to track degradation. Now, kind of surmising that on the sighting lap to come to the grid, the formation lap here, maybe the riders were spotting degradation in a certain part of the circuit. I know that Jack's going to be very, very busy trying to find out what particular parts of this Goiânia circuit are causing the most concern, but it is track degradation, we are told. That is the reason why we are dropping down from a 31-lap race to 23 laps. As mentioned, this is breaking news. This is an evolving situation as we speak here in Goiânia.
Well, it was already going to be a race of survival due to the immense physical challenge on the riders and the challenge on the tyres. This is definitely a Grand Prix for seeing the checkered flag. 23 laps coming ahead of us. Let's very quickly pop back down to Jack.
Yeah, team managers coming to try and speak to the organisers here, because some riders have been swapping tyres after the time limit, and as a result there's something to try and organise. Davide Tardozzi currently in conversation with Loris Capirossi and Carlos Espeleta.
Awesome work, Jack, as always, all over it down there in pit lane. So then we may potentially be getting a delayed start. As it stands right now, Marc Marquez on the front row of the grid in third place, looking for a double win here in Brazil. Marco Bezzecchi in the front row of the grid. Can he make it 4 successive victories in the MotoGP World Championship? We're starting from pole position here in the shortened Goiânia Grand Prix. It's Fabio Di Gianantonio. MotoGP is back in Brazil for the first time in 22 years. The grid is clearing. We've had some pre-race drama here in the build-up to what was scheduled to be a 31-lap Grand Prix of Brazil. Due to track degradation, that race list has been reduced to 23 laps. Starting from pole position for the first time since Mugello in 2022 is VR46 racing rider Fabio Di Gianantonio. Bezzecchi, second on the grid of the factory Aprilia. Can he be just the 14th rider in MotoGP history to win 4 successive Grand Prix? We know they'll have a big part to play in proceedings. Marc Marquez from the front row in third place. Yesterday's sprint winner here, of course, over 15 laps. Warm-up lap then gets underway here as we are set to go. MotoGP racing for the first time in over 2 decades. Gianantonio made the perfect start yesterday, didn't he? From that pole position, did so much of the front running in that sprint before he was undone by a late mistake at turn 12. Pedro Acosta, despite the fact that he picked up just 1 point in yesterday's sprint, started and finished it in P9, still sees him cling on to the World Championship lead. 2 points he sits clear of Marco Bezzecchi. Very early stage, of course, not in 2 rounds completed. Top 10 points covering the top 4 in the World Championship.
A nod to one of our colleagues in the media, Adam Wheeler, who makes a very good point. The 2/3 cut-off for a full point in a Grand Prix here in Brazil is 23 laps. So I suspect that is why they've settled on that number as the lap distance here.
So a weekend crowd of nearly 150,000 fans not to enjoy the show in Goiânia this weekend. Thank you and obrigado to every single one of you. And after such a long wait, let's hope we are going to get another brilliant MotoGP battle here in Brazil. Hopes of back-to-back Brazilian Grand Prix wins for Japanese talent while they rest firmly on the shoulders, of course, of Ayagura, 5th over the line in yesterday's sprint. Koto Tamada on a Pons Honda was our last MotoGP winner here in Brazil. That was at Jacarapagui, of course, in Rio, who will be adding their names to what is an elite list of previous Goiânia winners. A list that includes Wayne Gardner, Eddie Lawson and Kevin Schwantz, all former MotoGP world champions. It's the superstars of the present and the Monday that are about to do battle here in Brazil in MotoGP. Lights out to racing in MotoGP here in Goiânia. Brilliant start in the middle of that front row by Marco Bezzecchi, and once again he leads the field. He's led every single one of our last 3 races in the top class. He's got the drop on Fabio Di Gianantonio. Marc Marquez there in 3rd place. He briefly lost that 3rd, didn't he, to Fabio Quartararo, but Marco Bezzecchi at the front once again.
Jorge Martin with a very good start too. He's right up behind Marc Marquez. Quartararo this time going backwards. He's lost at least 3 places.
Unbelievable this by Marco Bezzecchi. Led every single lap in Portimao, led every single lap in Valencia at the end of 2025, led all laps in Forum last time round, and once again back in very, very familiar territory. He leads fellow Italian Gianantonio.
Pedro Acosta's made an incredible start. He's up to 5th place right up behind Martin. Took him so long to make any progress yesterday, but already the World Championship leader is up into the top 5.
Yeah, Fabio Quartararo's dropped back down into 10th place. He's just behind Ayagura and Joan Mir into the chicane. 10 and 11 then for the first time. You can just see there Quartararo running over the inside curve. He's got Fermin Aldeguer directly behind him on that special Alex Barros Brazilian livery.
Shocking start for Paco Bagnaia. He's dropped 3 further places. He's now down in 14th place, mired in the midfield.
So we've got Acosta, Mir, Quartararo, Razgatlioglu, Rins and Marini on Michelin soft rear tyre. How decisive could that be? With 8 laps slashed off the full race distance. Marco Bezzecchi then leads over the line at 1:23.325. His opening salvo as Mir comes from a long, long way back on Agura. Is he going to get that Honda stop? He is. Di Gianantonio's gone wide. Di Gianantonio makes a mistake going into the first corner, and Marc Marquez pounced on another Di Gianantonio mistake, just as he did the sprint yesterday.
Yeah, it was a late mistake yesterday, a very early one today. Marco Bezzecchi, as a result of that, is 7/10 up the road in the lead of this Grand Prix. Marc Marquez up into 2nd place. We've had a crash, unfortunately. The 200th Grand Prix for Jack Miller only lasted a lap and a quarter.
Yeah, that is a shame, unfortunately, for Jack Miller. Desperate to get some information over a long distance once again on that V4 powered Wisdar M1. Just showing Di Gianantonio his front tyre there, wasn't he? Going through 6 and 7 was Jorge Martin, who's been fast starting once again. First sprint podium yesterday for Martin since the Solidarity Grand Prix in Barcelona in 2024. Bezzecchi then it is that leads. Here we go then now through turn 11. This is 12 yesterday late on, where Di Gianantonio lost the lead and the win in the sprint.
Fabio Quartararo has lost further ground. He's now out of the top 10 in 11th place. Acosta shaping for a move up the inside of Jorge Martin. Acosta up into 4th place. That was Mir attacking Zarco too. Of course, Mir and Acosta on the soft rear tyre, both flying up the order.
Well, you knew that Acosta from 9th had to be ultra aggressive to stop this Grand Prix. He has not disappointed, has he, at all? Marc Marquez and Marco Bezzecchi, first riders in this Grand Prix into the 118s. They exchange 118.8. Bezzecchi led over the line by just over half a second.
Marc Marquez to get his claws into this Grand Prix, but Gianantonio still right behind him. Of course, Digia looking for a bit of revenge on Marc Marquez after a mistake cost him sprint victory yesterday. Of course, having already lost 2nd place, Gianantonio with a bit of a score to settle here.
Marco Bezzecchi in the damp conditions on Friday was 20th, and in Q1 he had a crash at the end of FP2 on Saturday morning, which left him with 1 bike for both qualifying sessions, yet somehow he was still able to get himself on the front row of the grid. A little bit missing some performance, he said, in parts of this Goiânia circuit on the Aprilia yesterday in the sprint, but boy, is he making amends for it here today. On course for what would be a dream scenario. 4 consecutive Grand Prix victories. Awesomeness by Bezzecchi, likewise from Acosta, he looks to defend that World Championship lead.
Strong start too for Alex Marquez on the Barros-inspired Grassini livery. He's right up behind the Acosta-Martin battle. We're in the middle of that right now, riding on board with Jorge Martin in 5th, but Alex Marquez is right behind us in 6th.
Well, we see that just ahead of Jorge Martin. We've got Acosta directly in front, but Marco Bezzecchi is starting to gap the field here. He's the only rider at the moment that's keeping himself in the 118s. Brilliant this early pace by Bezzecchi. His advantage over Marc Marquez crept up by another 0.3 of a second almost on that last lap. The Gian Antonio regrouping after his early mistake, just his best lap of the Grand Prix, keeping himself in third place. But Bezzecchi, at the moment, with a pace that's just too hot to handle.
Joan Mir also with wrecked faces. Brad Binder's crashed out on the teammate to Acosta. The bike we're looking at from Jorge Martin. Binder, who was running in 17th place out of the Grand Prix. But as mentioned, Mir also has front running pace. He did a 1:19.1 last time around. That was the same pace as Marquez and Digia, as Martin now attacks Acosta and takes back fourth place.
Yeah, that mistake by Binder has promoted Diogo Moreira, the home crowd favourite, up into 17th place. Martin then going toe-to-toe with Pedro Acosta. We've been waiting for a fully fit and fully confident Jorge Martin to show his credentials on that factory Aprilia. Well, we're finally seeing what he's capable of doing on that RSGP, and it's spectacular to watch. Third in yesterday's sprint, back up now into P4 in the Grand Prix.
Marco Bezzecchi's lead is now 1.1 seconds. Now, Marc Marquez in both the sprint yesterday and, of course, in the Grand Prix in Buriram took a few laps to finally get up to speed. Once he did, he had race-leading pace. So is this another example of Marc Marquez just taking his time, just getting himself up to speed? He might need to get a move on and get up to speed quickly, because he's half a second slower than the race leader.
Race of his own right now is Bears. Once again, he's the only rider in the 18s. A 1:18.717, 1.2 seconds, almost 1.3 clear of Marc as we move on to lap 5 of 23. I mean, this is just astonishing. It's just another demonstration, this by Bezzecchi. 1:19.2 from Marc, a 1:19.2 from the Gian Antonio. The next best behind Bezzecchi is the factory of his teammate Jorge Martin.
The pace at the moment from the race leader, who's already come into this Grand Prix weekend, as we mentioned, leading the last 78 Grand Prix laps without reply. He's now up to 83 and counting. 1.6 seconds in his lead halfway around this fifth lap. This is almost over as a contest already.
It would be a shock to the system the time that Marco Bezzecchi is not leading a Sunday Grand Prix. Hasn't happened since the Malaysian Grand Prix in Sepang last October. He's in the groove here, isn't he, as well? We've seen just how good he was at demolishing the field, running away with it in Buriram a couple of weeks ago when he won by over 5 seconds. It was no contest in Buriram, it's no contest in Brazil at the moment. The chasing pack just have nothing at the moment for the runaway Italian. Over the line he comes, it's another fastest lap. He's just getting quicker and quicker and quicker. A 1:18.669 from Bears. The only other rider in the 1:18s, guess who? Jorge Martin.
These Aprilias are running right once again, just as they were in Buriram at one point. And Jorge Martin could potentially be staring at a second place here if he plays his cards right in the remaining 17 laps of this Grand Prix. Marc Marquez coming under intense pressure from Fabio Gian Antonio, who carves up the inside, and Jorge Martin says thank you very much.
Yeah, and we have now an Aprilia 1-2, don't we? Yeah, we do. So Jorge Martin then says, I'll take the early Christmas gift. We have now the factory Aprilia 1-2, as Lewis said. Martin then now up into second place. He's nearly 2 seconds adrift of Bezzecchi. And one of the Aprilia 1-2 did with Barcelona in 2023, Aleix Spargo and Maverick Vinales. But the RSGP is now the reference motorcycle, isn't it, in MotoGP as it stands right now?
Yeah, we asked the question after what we saw in Buriram. Are Aprilia the reference? But I think we all thought, right, let's see a little bit more evidence. Let's see a different racetrack, different conditions, different challenges. And once again, it is all Aprilia at the front of the field. And already, Jorge Martin is not only gapping the two behind him, but he's chipping away at Marco Bezzecchi's lead. At the point that Martin took second place, it was 2.2 seconds. It's already down to 2 seconds, at 1:18.803 for Martin. 2 tenths quicker than Bezzecchi. Remember, he was passing 2 people while doing that.
Terrible lap that by Bears. A 1:19 flat, sluggish pace. He's still comfortably clear, 2 seconds ahead of Martin. Jorge Martin. He said yesterday he's way ahead of schedule. He could not in his wildest dreams imagine being in the podium contention in the sprint at round 2. Well, he's on course to go one better in this afternoon's Grand Prix. Third in the sprint yesterday. Now he is here in second place. This was the aggression from the Gian Antonio. He's going to fire at the VR46 Ducati on the inside of Marc Marquez going into turn 4. They both run out to the marbles and then just cutting to his normal racing on the inside. We'll say thank you very much. I'll take that gift. Jorge Martin up into second.
So Marquez then sitting in 4th place. Of course, missed the podium after his tyre came off the rim when he clipped that curb in Buriram. At the moment, he's going 2 for 2 of missing Grand Prix podiums, which is not what we expected to be saying about the reigning world champion. But like in Buriram, put to one side what happened when he dropped out of the Grand Prix. He did stay patient and he did come into the Grand Prix as he moved into the second half. So don't expect the 93 to be panicking just yet.
Just shows how much Digi's aggression on that last lap cost Marc Marquez. Marquez was a second slower than Jorge Martin. The Gian Antonio now gets himself into the 118s for the first time in this Grand Prix. He's not going to let Aprilia run away with the 1-2 here, is he, in Brazil? Marco Bezzecchi might be running away with the win, but Jorge Martin's got a big fight to hold on to that second place. Marc Marquez once again in those low 119s. His pace just 6 thousandths of a second between Marc and Pedro Acosta in 5th. Further down, Aguirre, another Aprilia that's doing 118s. Aguirre, his fastest lap of the Grand Prix in P8.
Looks like yesterday though, for Aguirre, he's stuck in traffic, which is his big problem at the moment. He's behind Mir, Alex Marquez and Acosta. You just see him in the back of the picture. Bezzecchi was running away with this Grand Prix. I think he still just about is, but Jorge Martin did take 3/10 out of him on the last lap to cut that lead down to 1.8. Sure, Marco Bezzecchi does have some extra pace up his sleeve if he needs it. But Jorge Martin, don't think he's going to be playing the team game if he has a sniff of a MotoGP victory.
So often Fabio Quartararo carries the hopes of the factory Yamaha squad and Yamaha in general. Unfortunately today though for him, the Frenchman is not at the top Yamaha run at the moment. That's Alex Rins in 13th place. Rins doing an excellent job actually, just with a 119.535. Fabio Quartararo was over the line in 14th place. You can see the timing tower, he's out before it's going places at the moment. It's Quartararo, he's been tipped off by Moreira. The day's going from bad to bad, worse, isn't it, for Fabio Quartararo? Down from 6th to 16th.
Yeah, I guess in some respects reverting back to what he probably expected after the incredible qualifying performance and sprint performance, to be fair, that Quartararo put in yesterday. The Yamahas, I guess, reverting back towards where they were when things settled down in Buriram. It's settling down a little bit at the front now. The top 4 all exchanging 118s. 18.8 for the top 3, with Gian Antonio setting his best lap of the Grand Prix. Marc Marquez an 18.9 in 4th place.
Everybody in MotoGP right now trying to work out the conundrum. How on earth do you halt Marco Bezzecchi on a Grand Prix Sunday? Just another phenomenal performance this by Bezzecchi. Brilliant start he made from second place on the grid. Didn't really give a sniff to Marc Marquez and Fabio Di Giannantonio on the 2 Ducatis alongside him to try and get that whole shot on the long run down to the downhill braking zone for turn 1. And since then, nobody really has seen which way Bez went.
Seeing anyway to catch him at the moment. Acosta's not really getting himself involved in this battle yet. The 2nd, 3rd and 4th. Acosta's doing low 19s. He also did a personal best on the last lap, but he's the best part of a second behind Marc Marquez and is losing the World Championship lead as it stands at the moment, losing it to this man, to Marco Bezzecchi, whose golden run looks set at the moment to continue. He is staring, although we're not quite at half race distance yet, but he is on course at the moment for 4 lights to flag victories in a row.
Giacomo Agostini, Valentino Rossi, and his great pal Pecco Bagnaia, previous Italians in MotoGP history to win 4 on the spin. And barring any late dramas, barring any late disasters, it looks like it's going to be 4 on the spin as far as Bezzecchi is concerned. He picked up his pace on that previous lap. He was back in the 118, just responding, maybe just seeing on his pit board that his gap down to Jorge Martin had just come down to 1.7, 1.8. Did he have a response? You bet he did. And now he's back in the 118s himself.
Aprilia then versus Aprilia at the moment at the front of the race, with Martin cutting half a second between himself and this Ducati battle as Marc Marquez gets a little bit hot there into turn 10, and a bit of a grimace and a shake of the head for Gigi Dall'Igna. He's not had this feeling very often in the last few years, has he?
Well, he was the former technical mastermind of Aprilia, wasn't he? Pre-2014 when he first jumped over to Ducati. It's his old paymasters at the moment that are mastering the MotoGP World Championship. Marco Bezzecchi, once again, it's a 119 flat. Slightly quicker behind him were Martin and the Gian Antonio. I have to say Marc Marquez there in 4th place. Don't know whether Marc just may be biding his time, manning his tyres to launch a potential late attack on Martin and Diggio ahead of him, but he hasn't really messed up. He's gone down.
So it's not Marco Bezzecchi. You can see it
somewhere.
Top left of your screen sees I think it might be Pecco Bagnaia, who had just taken 11th place. Unfortunately, though, he is now out of this Grand Prix. His miserable start to 2026 continues.
Well, a lot of people wondered whether there was going to be any kind of hangover from his dismal 2025. And we're getting our answer at the moment. Down he goes into the first corner in pursuit of Johan Zarco's LCR Honda. And that's the exact same crash that Zarco had himself in the sprint yesterday. Fluff dear. Banyaya. Oh, Joan Mir. It's another double DNF.
From 7th place.
For Joan Mir. Yesterday, he got a bit of a helping hand into the gravel trap after Ralph Fernandez's early aggression in the sprint. This one, though, is all of his own doing, and he rolls off the side of the tyre going into turn 4.
This is a Grand Prix, as I mentioned on the warm-up lap, of survival. No one is guaranteed any kind of result until they see the checkered flag waving in their face. As we look overhead once again, as Bezzecchi puts a serious response in to Jorge Martin there. A 1:18.654. Bezzecchi at the fastest lap of the Grand Prix, saying to Jorge Martin, "Hey teammate, I've got this one firmly under control."
That was a 34th GP DNF in 58 for HRC for Joan Mir. What a miserable experience he's had in Goiânia. That's astonishing pace, isn't it, by Marco Bezzecchi? Half distance almost completed here in Brazil, and he is just rubbing their nose at the moment, kicking sand in their faces. A 1:18.654. You're supposed to be going slow at this stage to Grand Prix, Marco, not faster.
Himself and Matt have the honour and the pressure of choosing the overtake of the race nominees at the end of this Grand Prix. Potentially a contender just there, with Alex Marquez taking Pedro Acosta into turn 1. Alex Marquez now up into 5th place. That's the good news for Alex. The bad news is he's got 2 seconds to try and make up if he's to join the battle for the final podium position between Fabio Gianantonio and Marc Marquez.
Where's your vote going for ride of the race? Of course, you can vote now. There'll be a lot of support for Marco Bezzecchi. I'm sure a lot of support for Jorge Martin as well, as Pedro Acosta climbs all over the rear tyre of Alex Marquez's beautiful Barros Brazilian livery for Gresini Ducati. Over the line we go. Marco Bezzecchi. Fair play to Martin in second. He's trying to keep Bez honest at the front of this Grand Prix. Martin has just set his personal best lap of the race, a 1:18.802, but the gap has not come down to under 1.7 seconds, has it? That's a gap that you feel is more than capable of Bezzecchi managing at the front. Just keeping a close eye on the Digia Marc Marquez battle. A bit of a repeat, the first and second in yesterday's sprint. Nothing between those two in terms of lap times. Low 1:19s for the pair.
How important is that start going to prove to be for Marco Bezzecchi to get the advantage into the first corner and build that early advantage, whilst Martin was stuck in a little bit of traffic, the traffic that only opened up for him once Gianantonio and Marc Marquez moved out of his way. Because it's clear, isn't it? As soon as Jorge Martin has been in clear air in second place, he's had similar, if not faster pace to Marco Bezzecchi. They've been trading pretty fast laps. The lead has hovered around sort of 1.7, 1.8 seconds. Very little to choose between the two. For Jorge Martin, the damage in terms of winning this Grand Prix might have been done in the first sector of the race.
Big payday back in here, doesn't it, for Bezzecchi? As Pedro Acosta on the inside of Alex Marquez. Well, whatever room there was there, he decided to take it come what may, didn't he? Alex Marquez then trying to line him up on the exit of the final corner. Marco Bezzecchi will be taking the World Championship lead as it stands right now. That's why Pedro Acosta's fighting tooth and nail to try and limit the damage, and having compromised his exit speed with the aggressive entry into 13, Alex Marquez does dish out some instant retaliation and wrestles back P5.
Agora with the front row seat of this battle in P7, and he'll be once again a little bit frustrated with the pace he has, but he can't use any of it because once again he is stuck in traffic. It was Fabio Quartararo that he was staring at for much of the sprint yesterday. This time it's Acosta and Alex Marquez, because you fancy that Agora would have the pace to be in this Digia Marc Marquez battle if he could just clear the pair ahead of it.
Dreamland, isn't it, right now for Aprilia? What a motorcycle they have created for the likes of Jorge Martin and Marco Bezzecchi. Those two are delivering, aren't they, here on Sunday in Brazil. Bezzecchi 1.9 clear of Martin. What has Marc Marquez got left late on? He said in Bura he was just happy to save energy and save rubber, crucially, as he was trying to find a way to close in on Ralph Fernandez late on in that Thai Grand Prix before that real freak tyre incident ruled him out of contention. Is this now the plan for Marc? Is he just going to wait and try and rescue third place here late on from the Gianantonio? He can forget about it, truly, as they are long gone.
Exchanging mid to high 18s, post to Lesser Martin on 18.7 last time round, but Bezzecchi a 10th quicker, and here's another Aprilia making moves up the order. Agora now into the top 6 at the expense of Acosta.
Looks like a bit of a sitting duck right now, doesn't he, Acosta, on that KTM?
Having for a tyre, of course.
Yeah, having barred Alex Marquez out of the way at turn 13 a couple of laps ago. A block past. Guess he thought, well, if I can get ahead of Alex Marquez and then just maybe block him for a few laps. I mean, we saw on so many occasions last year what an awesome defensive rider Pedro across could be. But yeah, as he just punished that rear tyre too much, Segura made light work of him on the run down to turn 1.
Because this is, of course, lap 15, which was sprint distance yesterday. So past this point, we're now entering a territory that soft rear tyre has not been into so far this weekend. So Pedro Acosta might well be a little bit concerned at the current pace that he's setting, doing mid-119s. He's now a second a lap off the race-leading pace. Pecco Bagnaia is not even in this Grand Prix, and already after 2 Grand Prix weekends, Bagnaia just with 10 points to his name.
Not at the races at all. There's been a bit of chaos that's ensued ahead of him, has seen Diogo Moreira elevated up into 13th place. You just see him there. He's just ahead of Frankie Morbidelli. He's got Alex Rins directly ahead of him on circuit. Credit to Alex Rins. He's doing a pretty solid job out there at the moment, a respectable job to keep the Yamaha inside the points went place. Fabio Potter at the moment on course for a rather fortuitous single point. And Nea Bastianini on the last lap has picked off top Lance Gatlioglu for 16th.
It's a consolation prize at best, isn't it, for the beast after the weekend he's had. That's a three-way battle at the moment. Quartararo, Bastianini and Toprak, 15, 16 and 17. This is the battle now for third place, both in the 118s on the last lap. Dicia and Marc Marquez, but unfortunately the horse or horses called the Aprilia and bolted up at the front of the race.
Yeah, I mean, still going to represent, if he holds on to the podium, a real strong weekend for Digia. Pole position, second in the sprint and third in the Grand Prix. A 1-2-3 combo, but I think he'd have been expecting a little bit more here this afternoon. But once again on Sunday, the Aprilia just seem to be able to raise their game. They're able to just ramp it up a couple of gears and find another level. And basically, let's be honest, they're crushing the opposition again once again here in Brazil. Marco Bezzecchi is over the line. He's on lap 17 of 2023, and he's still in the 18s. So too is Martin. Sensing that Mark here is just starting to build up for his late threat. Marc Marquez now has just fired in a rare 118 for the factory Ducati rider.
Well, I don't think even a grid-style Samba show is going to break the concentration of Fabio Di Giannantonio here, given what happened to him yesterday, right here in the sprint as he went wide and released the gold medal from around his neck and over the neck of Marc Marquez. Di Giannantonio will be highly motivated here to get a little bit of revenge, not only on Marc Marquez, but I guess on himself after the mistake that cost him a win yesterday.
Well, I had a pleasure interview Marco Bezzecchi after his win in Burma. A bit of a post-race Thai Grand Prix bet with him. If he won in Brazil, he'd do some samba on the podium.
I'm sure he's getting the shoes.
Let's hope if he does get the job done, we're going to see a bit of samba. I'm sure he will do. He's got a good teacher, hasn't he, in the VR46 Academy from Frankie Morbidelli. How's Frankie getting on in what is his second home Grand Prix? He's got a huge family and friend support here this weekend. Not really going Frankie's way, down in 14th position at the moment. And yeah, this threat is really starting to build here, isn't it, from Mark. He's piling the pressure on once again from Fabio Di Giannantonio. How many laps so far this weekend has Digia crossed the line and seen +0.93?
Dicia's doing his level best. He just did his personal best on a 118, matched by Marc Marquez. So Digia is trying to prove a bit of a point here to Marc Marquez, but I've got everything it takes to hold you off in a head-to-head battle, which he didn't yesterday. He's still got another 6 laps to keep the world champion behind.
Yeah, which ain't going to be an easy task, is it, at all? It was a task that he was almost up to in the sprint yesterday. Kept Marquez at bay until a couple laps from the end of the sprint. But he's got it all on here because Marc Marquez is really starting to put that pressure firmly on the 49.
Potentially starting to come back at Martin a little bit the last couple of laps. See a bit of movement there from Marc Marquez around turn 6. And the last lap they were a 10th quicker than Jorge Martin. Already on this lap so far they pulled another 10th and a half back. Don't think Martin or Aprilia will be panicking just yet, but Martin might need to just squeeze a little bit more pace out of that Aprilia just to safeguard that second place.
Now, I'm not Jorge Martin, I'm not Jorge Martin's representative, but these kind of performances are making it hard and hard to fathom why he would potentially, if you believe the rumours, be jumping out of the factory Aprilia squad to Yamaha.
Leading Yamaha at the moment, by the way, is in 14th place. Alex Rins, who is, some 15 or so seconds and change back from the race leader as the battle for third continues. Yeah, it's a Bit of a conundrum for Jorge Martin. Who knows? Jorge Martin might well be in the running to challenge for a second MotoGP World title this season. If this Aprilia is the dominant package in the first two Grand Prix, then over the next 20, of course, still an awful long way to go in the season, and Ducati will not take this line down. But Aprilia, as we've discussed, surely at the moment have the reference motorcycle. Do we have a new favourite already at this stage for the MotoGP World Championship? I tell you what, if Aprilia go to Austin next weekend and do this again, as Marc Marquez, the king of Cota, is putting some manners on Fabio Di Giannantonio, this is a bit of a personal duel, isn't it? Marc Marquez back into third place.
Listen to the roar of the Brazilian fans. They've got Diogo Moreira running in the point scoring place down in 13th place, but as he is all around the world, Marc Marquez is so popular. He's going to lose some drive, though, isn't he, now coming out of turn 12? Marc Marquez, and he had to wait for a mistake from Di Giannantonio to seize the lead in the sprint yesterday. This time he's decided to take matters into his own hands. That was aggressive, wasn't it, by Marc, going through that 6-7 complex, the two left-handers. So then, did you? Have you got anything to try and fight back and deny Marc Marquez his first Grand Prix podium of 2026?
Of course, did you put a pretty tough move on Marc early on, which released Martin through. Did you, much like he did in the sprint yesterday, was able to get up alongside Marc Marquez, but can't outbreak him into the first corner. And is this deja vu for Digia 24 hours on?
Yeah, could well be. This is at turn 4 where he has already put on some aggressive moves. Goes through the fastest corner circuit, into 3 now, into 4. Marc goes super defensive. There's just nothing. He wasn't going to leave any kind of inch there for Di Giannantonio to throw that VR46 Ducati on the inside. What about now? Through 5. Now through the left-handers, so 6 and 7. This is where Marc attacked on the last lap.
Certainly eased the pressure on Jorge Martin for second place. This was the move. Marc Marquez, bit of a block pass, but perfectly legitimate. Just stuffed it up the inside of Fabio Di Giannantonio and said, DJ, you can tip it in as much as you want, but I've got the high ground, I've got the inside line, and I've got your third place.
That's how close it was. That is how close it was. It's the old cliche, isn't it? Rubbing his race. Di Giannantonio's got back ahead of Marc Marquez. You can see the live picture-in-picture screen there. And Di Giannantonio, well, fair play to him. Fabio is fighting fire with fire here. What a battle this is for the final place on the podium. Probably, certainly is going to cost him the chance to reel in Jorge Martin for second. With Fabio Di Giannantonio, just as you knew he wouldn't, he ain't taking this lying down.
So we're just sort of trying to keep an eye on it. The Thomas Tucano's grid. Did Marc make a mistake, or did Digi this deal have some revenge? We're going to see it now. Marc Marquez just wide, much like Digi was yesterday in the sprint. This time it was Fabio on the receiving end.
Yeah, Marc was nearly down there, wasn't he? Going through 11, and now he's got to do all the hard work over again. Just about 2.5 laps remaining here in Brazil. Marco Bezzecchi in cruise control here in Goiânia. They pick up the runaway race leader, who just is getting so accustomed to seeing clear tarmac ahead of him. Is he going to be your pick for rider of the race? What about Di Giannantonio or Marc Marquez in their epic fight once again for a podium position?
I was about to mention it a moment ago before Marc Marquez engaged with Fabio Di Giannantonio, but if Aprilia go to Austin and do this again, as Jorge Martin makes a bit of a mistake into turn 11, and they dominate at the circuit of the Americas, where Marc Marquez has dominated through his entire MotoGP career, then the alarm bells will be sounding loud and clear in Borgo Panigale.
At least they're going to get out of Brazil with one bike on the podium, it looks like. Of course, last time out in Buram, no Ducati on the podium for the first time in 89 Grand Prix. No Ducati on the box for the first time in 5 long years. But you have to say, once again, Aprilia are creaming the opposition, aren't they? Marc Marquez then, hard on the brakes into the long right-hander of turns 1 and 2. Once again, he closes up on Fabio Di Giannantonio, trying to make that VR46 Ducati as wide as an 18-wheel truck right now. Did you? Into 4 we go. Marc Marquez nowhere near close enough to try and launch the attack. He won't be close enough either to make another move here at turn 5 like he did a few laps ago.
Marc's a wily customer, of course. He's been down this road many times before. Won, of course, so many world championships. I don't think he's going to launch a crazy one from too far back here. 13 points is better than nothing. And at the moment, he's not showing any signs of getting close enough to even launch a speculative one on Fabio Di Giannantonio.
Let's not forget as well, even though this has been reduced by 8 laps, Marc Marquez has not completed a Grand Prix since he won the World Championship in Mataglia over 170 days ago. We still know he's probably not completely fully recovered with that right shoulder he broke in Mandalika. So maybe a bit of fatigue's creeping in now as well for the 93.
Or maybe for Jorge Martin too. He'll be quite keen to see the checker flags. He's lost 6/10 of this lap to the Diggio Marquez battle. Final lap begins for Marco Bezzecchi. Martin did a 19.5 on the last lap, lost 7/10 to Barry Gian Antonio. But the good news for the Martinator, he's got one more lap to survive.
It has once again been an exhibition in fast starting, fast pace, and then controlling a Grand Prix at the front from Marco Bezzecchi. He is going to join a very illustrious group of riders. This is 78 years, only 7 years in the MotoGP World Championship. Previously, only 13 have ever won 13 and 4 successive MotoGP races. This is the historic moment reckoning for Bez. And let's be honest, he's not really been flustered, has he? He's not really been pressured. He's made it look so easy. It isn't, trust us, but Marco Bezzecchi is laying down a corner here. He is throwing down a big marker. He ended 2025 with 2 wins in a row. He started 2026 with 2 wins in a row. Catch me if you can's the message.
It's getting even better for Aprilia. Gurus just take a pin from Alex Marquez. But Marco Bezzecchi, is he about just to underline his status as MotoGP World Championship favourite?
Marco Bezzecchi was utterly brilliant in Buram to start 2026, and there's been a repeat. Bezzecchi has been brilliant here in Brazil. He wins our first Brazilian Grand Prix in 22 years. He absolutely destroyed the field once again. Winner in Thailand by over 5 seconds. Winner here today in Goiânia by over 3 seconds. Jorge Martin completes a fairy tale 1-2 for the factory Aprilia squad. A first Grand Prix podium since he won the World Championship at Barcelona in 2024 for Martin. Fabio Di Gianantonio does win out in another personal duel with Marc Marquez, despite the fact on the last lap of that Grand Prix, Marc did put in his best lap of the race, a 1:18.679, but it was not good enough. Di Gianantonio holds on for the podium. Ayogura got Alex Marquez for 5th on the last lap. The fireworks start, the firecrackers are underway, and on fire is Marco Bezzecchi on the factory Aprilia, who takes the lead in the MotoGP World Championship. Only Valentino Rossi, Marc Marquez, Jorge Lorenzo and Pecco Bagnaia had won 4 successive Grand Prix in the modern era. Some club that is to be part of. The points, Agura got Alex Marquez late on for 5th. Pedro Acosta dropped down for 7th and loses the World Champs lead. A brilliant 8th place of Fermin Aldeguer on his first Grand Prix action since Valencia. A 9th and a top 10 for Zarco and Ralph Fernandez. Points for Marini, Morbidelli, Moreira, Rins and Bastianini. But this feels like another big statement performance by Marco Bezzecchi. The records keep tumbling for the Italian and for the Aprilia factory. First ever Aprilia rider to win 4 consecutive Grand Prix. The 27-year-old from Italy's Adriatic coast. Well, he is going to be enjoying his samba tonight here in Goiânia. What a ride. Never ever looked like throwing that one away from lights out to finish.
True dominance. Aprilia rubbing Ducati's noses in it. A 1-2, they're first for the best part of 3 years. Paolo Bonora giving his immediate reaction to Jack.
Paolo, the perfect day, who unsurprisingly is getting hugs, kisses from everyone in the community box. 1-2 in the Brazilian Grand Prix, doesn't get any better than that. What a performance, what a turnaround from yesterday for Marco. How did you pull it off?
Yeah, the medium tire on the rear since this morning fixed something that we struggled a bit during the sprint race. There was too much over force on the front tire, and the rear medium helped a bit in the braking, and also in the acceleration phase for the stability. We have seen during the warm-up already for the Jorge and Marco in particular. And to be honest, they did a wonderful job. They start in a very great way, very good start, and they manage in a very careful way the front tire.
My favourite saying to me is feet on the ground, but come on, Paolo, you're fighting in the World Championship here.
No, we have still the feet on the ground. Thanks a lot.
Feet doing some samba dancing right now, that's for sure, inside the factory at Aprilia garage. Jorge Martin was overcome with emotion yesterday after he picked up that bronze medal in the sprint. He goes one better here today. Second place, his first Grand Prix podium in nearly 500 days on what was an unforgettable weekend, of course, when he was the Pramac Ducati World Champion over in Barcelona. Huge respect and kudos to Fabio Di Giannantonio. It's got to be one of the toughest challenges in MotoGP history to win an out-and-out fight with Marc Marquez. He has done just that, and look at that in terms of the championship. Pedro Acosta's poor weekend sees him surrender the lead and drop back down to third. Marco Bezzecchi and Jorge Martin first and second in that Grand Prix of Brazil. And fairy tale stuff this for Aprilia. First and second in the World Championship.
And Marc Marquez already at this stage 22 points behind Marco Bezzecchi. And Marco Bezzecchi looks like he's in the mood to extend that in the races that come up. Of course, next weekend we go to Marquez territory in Austin, Texas, a venue that he has adored and dominated at over the years. But if Aprilia go there and stick it on to Ducati, then Ducati know they have a major problem if they don't already in 2026.
Yeah, Ducati and Mark might need Cota just to sort of get a reference of where they're at. We know how strong he is around that Austin circuit. You just saw there on screens. 2022, Aleix Espargaro, the last home Aprilia rider, sat at the top of the World Championship rankings. Those two once were sworn enemies and fierce rivals when they fought it out for the 2018 Moto3 World Championship. And now they sit alongside each other, first and second, the elite level. Congratulations from VR46 Ducati. An excellent job. What a weekend it has been for Fabio Di Giannantonio. And as we said, there aren't too many occasions in his Grand Prix career when, in an out-and-out race-long fight, Marc Marquez comes out the wrong side of it. Fabio Di Giannantonio ensured that was the case today. Marco Bezzecchi takes the plaudits. There you can see the embracing Fabiano Sterlachini. What a weapon he's turned that RSGP into. Absolutely brilliant. Brilliant, just teaching themselves, aren't they, right now, here and back in Nawale. 4 successive victories from Marco Bezzecchi, all of them leading every single lap. Is it now over 100 laps to this, or nigh on 100 laps that he's led the last 4 Grand Prix?
We have 101 laps now without reply.
Now that is dominance. That's
MotoGP 101, according to Marco Bezzecchi.
That's next level. That is different class, isn't it? Warming himself even more to the hearts of the Brazilian fans. It's Jorge Martin with his number 89 Brazilian football shirt. Strong weekend for Ayagura. 5th over the line he was in the sprint yesterday. 5th over the line in the Grand Prix here today as well. Some weekend for VR46 Ducati as Fabio Di Giannantonio out of Q1. Pole position, fought for the win in the sprint and got a bit of revenge, did he, today on Marc Marquez after they toughed it out for the final place on our Grand Prix podium. Tell you what, if Marco Bezzecchi and Aprilia go to Cota next weekend and topple Marc Marquez and Ducati, and that is, we're already standing up and taking notice, aren't we? But that will feel like an even bigger statement from the Nawale factory. So, 3 Italian motorcycles in Parc Ferme. There is Dorna CEO Carmelo Espoleta. I believe MotoGP Sports Entertainment Group, as I should now say, having to congratulate our top 3.
And Jorge Martin has a taste for it again now, doesn't he? Back on Grand Prix podiums. And at what point does the mindset of Jorge Martin, as Massimo Rivola is, I guess, taking phone calls of congratulations? At what point, I wonder, does Jorge Martin's mindset go from, I'm happy to be here, to, I can win a 2nd World Championship this year?
That was a brilliant ride by Fermin Alliger. 11.3 seconds behind Marco Bezzecchi at the checkered flag. That guy had not done anything anywhere near long distances on that Ducati since Valencia last year. What a weekend for Fabio Di Giannantonio. Pole position and 2 podiums to boot. Let's get his thoughts for Jack.
Fabio, what a weekend and what a way to bounce back from yesterday. You could just tell you were not going to let Mark beat you again. The battle back and beat him head to head. How satisfying is that?
I pushed really hard, especially because I didn't make C, but this morning I had the bang on my left shoulder like last year. So I wanted to don't think about it, but once I started the race on the hard braking on the left, I was really struggling. So yeah, it was difficult at the beginning. Aprilia had something more compared to us, but then yeah, the battle with Marco was super fun. Always aggressive from your side, but it's normal because this track is quite straight. Wow, estretto. I don't know. It's quite little tight. Yes, it was normal, but this time it was me or me, like me or me. Yesterday took it. Now I took the podium. It's not a win, but for sure it's a great battle, and I'm happy to have battle with him.
Super weekend. Congratulations.
Thank you. Ciao a tutti ragazzi. Grazie.
Yeah, Fabio Di Giannantonio then just revealing to us there that he was a little bit beaten up, a little bit battered after that crash in this morning's warm-up session, which shows just how hard he had to fight with Marc Marquez. Look at that. That is MotoGP combat at its closest. It was hard, it was aggressive, but it was fair between 93 and 49. And you've got to sense that Fabio Di Giannantonio was not going to let lightning strike twice. That was one of the key moments going through turn 12, where Marc Marquez almost crashed out of contention. Fourth place then at the checker flag, that for the number 93. Fabio Di Giannantonio then comes over the line for his 7th MotoGP podium finish. God, by him. And what about Jorge Martin? Brilliant body, factory of Aprilia rider. 2 podiums here in Brazil. Let's get his thoughts for Jack.
He's already practicing the samba, is Jorge, and quite rightly as well. What a return to form. A double podium. We could see the emotion of yesterday. Now to finish second, and an Aprilia 1-2 as well. It must be.
Yeah, today, that quasi on. It means a bit. Today, Marco was really strong. At some point of the race, I thought I could catch up, but luckily, Fabio took Mark, and I went through. And then I saw I was faster at that point. I was trying to manage everything on the bike. For me, long runs is really unpredictable. So every lap was a bit different. I was struggling a bit towards the end, but I managed well. I tried to win that, but it was really difficult to take out from Marco. Anyway, super happy for closing this solid weekend. Thanks to Aprilia, they are an unbelievable team. Thanks to Marco because he's helping me a lot, and I think we are a great team and we can deliver good things this year.
Good job, well done.
Thank you. Gracias, Brasil. Obrigado.
They are already delivering good things, aren't they? The Aprilia pairing. This was Jorge Martin. We would have looked ahead and seen Fabio Di Giannantonio pick up Marc Marquez on the entry into turn 4. Both of them running out wide and just slotting down Aprilia on the inside. To take second place was Jorge Martin. Look at that, he's pumped. He is buzzing. His first Grand Prix podium as a factory Aprilia rider. Standing job by Jorge Martin. Can't quite believe what's happening, can they, at Aprilia at the moment. Top 2 riders in that Goiânia Grand Prix. The top 2 riders now in the World Championship is, at the moment, an unstoppable, an unbeatable Marco Bezzecchi wins once again here in Brazil. Let's get his thoughts for Jack.
Marco, that's now a fantastic 4th victory in a row. The 100% record at the start of the season continues, and now the new MotoGP World Championship leader. Not bad.
Not bad. I'm very happy. It was a tough weekend. Was super tough on Friday. We started in a bad way, and it was difficult to keep the motivation super high. But the guys did a wonderful job, and I also pushed myself over the limit to try to compensate everything I could. And at the end, we found a way to make the bike in a fantastic way. I adjust some details on my riding, and from this morning I felt better, so I said, okay, maybe I can try to fight, and it was an amazing race. I'm super happy. I want to dedicate this victory to Robbie, that unfortunately passed away last week. He was a dear friend of mine, so it was tough, and I'm very happy that I can dedicate this to him.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's a lovely tribute there to Robbie Lunaday, part of our close-knit MotoGP community, who sadly lost his life in a road traffic accident in Rimini last weekend. As Marco Bezzecchi there said, a close friend. That MotoGP community down on Italy's Adriatic coast. So with Robbie's family and friends. Marco Bezzecchi though, just continuing right now what is an unrivaled domination. I mean, we've said in commentary, it's anything but easy to win a MotoGP race, but it's making it look so easy. And as he mentioned that, I mean, he was all at sea and lost on Friday, 20th at the end of that rain-disrupted practice session. Fast forward 48 hours, and he's making it 4 successive Grand Prix victories in a row. He now leads the MotoGP World Championship, Aprilia on top of the standings for the first time in 4 years. Aprilia and Marco Bezzecchi running right in MotoGP.
Io che avevo loro che dopo gli ultimi giri ho continuato a fare il solito, io dove è caduto ieri, via di 3, sì. Fuori, no, sul blu, come te ieri, guarda. Che mancavano 3 e lì ho detto basta che ho finito. Come sfondo. E oggi faccio quasi sul passo loro,
Andiamo, basta. Guardate qua,
Marco Bezzecchi and Jorge Martin starting their post-Grand Prix debrief there. Trying to pinch themselves, I'm sure, going, we're 1 or 2 in the championship, mate.
Dalla sfida in Vina, ma a me così all'inizio ho cambiato, anzi dopo ho detto
no, la butto dentro. Non io metto la faccia dietro. Vai.
Armani.
Sì, voglio lì.
Mamma mia, costissima.
Mazza, bellissimo.
Non aveva grippa all'inizio. Un po'
Mi si è attaccata la spallina sulla pedana. Guarda. Che mi ha tirato la spallina. Sì, bravo. Guarda.
Ah, è questo via.
Sì. Mettete la pedana a qualcosa, però guarda.
È la cosa della carriera.
Può essere.
Oddio, ma quanto Maria?
Uno pari, dai, uno l'ho fatto.
Lì l'asfalto.
Si sta togliendo.
Sta staccando tutto. 2 stage, ma il giro di riprendere. Il giro di riprendere. Grande più. Ho visto? Questa è una guida da ora per me, non so.
Vamos. Grande Matteo.
Ma fa un temporale tutto dietro.
Martin making his first mistake of the weekend there, almost destroying our ice bucket. A very welcome cool treat for our top 3 here in scorching hot conditions in Brazil. From to Brazil, Southeast Asia to South America. It's Marco Bezzecchi who is standing tall in the top of the podium here once again. I can't quite believe what's happening right now, can they? In the factory Aprilia team. You have to enjoy these special moments, and they certainly are. For so long, the Italian kings in MotoGP have been Ducati. It is been a shifting in the balance of power in MotoGP right now.
Certainly at the moment, Aprilia are in such a sweet spot. With a 1 and 2 in the Grand Prix, 1 and 2 in the World Championship. Fabio Di Giannantonio, who's just taken his face out of that ice bowl back in the green room before the podium. And now the sweet taste of third place for him. Second for Jorge Martin. His best result, of course, and first Grand Prix podium in the colours of Aprilia. Aprilia, who are flying their flag high as the dominant force right now at the start of 2026 in MotoGP, with Marco Bezzecchi extending his extraordinary run. 4 consecutive Grand Prix wins, 101 Grand Prix laps led without reply. Just if you can. The winning constructor prize, which of course, once again, goes to the boys from Noale. And the hard-working men and women of Aprilia have built a monster in 2026. Is Ducati's long-running dominance of MotoGP in both the Riders and the Constructors' Championship coming under some genuine threat now. The Vice-Governor of Goiás, the region of which we're so delighted to have come for this first Brazilian Grand Prix in over 2 decades, presents the trophy to Fabio Di Giannantonio. Of course, ended last season with podium in Valencia. That's 2 of the last 3 then for him. Second place to Jorge Martin. 33rd MotoGP podium. How sweet must this one feel, though? After all the sacrifice, the rehabilitation, the recuperation of 2025, he's a genuine contender again in 2026. The governor of Goiás is going to hand over yet another race-winning trophy. Number 8 for Marco Bezzecchi in MotoGP. His winning streak goes on. Aprilia's winning streak goes on as Bez bounces to the top of the MotoGP World Championship.
Bezzecchi and Aprilia are getting very used to hearing the Italian national anthem ring out at the end of MotoGP races, aren't they, recently? For the 4th Grand Prix in succession. It was simply the best. Simply irresistible, isn't he, right now? The 27-year-old Italian who will leave South America and head north to the Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas for round 3 in 2026. Installed as the new World Championship leader, and potentially, maybe in some people's eyes, installed as now a new MotoGP World Championship favourite. Long season ahead of us. Very, very early doors, but the signs incredibly positive, aren't they? If you're associated with Marco Bezzecchi and Aprilia, work to do. Bit of homework going to be going on at Borgo Panigale, isn't there? But Ducati, let's see Aprilia dominate a Grand Prix once again. It's going to be a very sweet gulp of Prosecco for Marco Bezzecchi and Aprilia. He joins previous Goiânia winners Wayne Gardner, Eddie Lawson and Kevin Schwantz. What a quartet that is to be part of. Marco Bezzecchi joining 3 previous MotoGP World Champions as Goiânia Grand Prix